Halloween night. When children dress up as monsters, knock on strangers' doors, and celebrate all things scary, it's supposed to be harmless fun. But sometimes, on October 31st, the line between costume and reality disappears completely. Sometimes, real monsters use Halloween as the perfect cover. These 3 stories happened on Halloween nights when trick-or-treating became something else entirely. Knocking on the wrong door meant never going home. Halloween 2003 was supposed to be perfect. My wife Janelle and I had moved to the suburbs, specifically for nights like this. Safe neighborhood, good families, normal trick-or-treaters. All evening, cute kids had knocked on our door. Pirates, princesses, superheroes. Janelle took pictures while I handed out full-size candy bars. By 10 p.m., the trick-or-treaters had stopped coming. We were getting ready to turn off the porch light and call it a night. That's when we heard the last knock. Slow, deliberate, 3 times. Not the eager pounding of excited children. I opened the door, expecting to see teenagers trying to get free candy at the last minute. Instead, there was just one small figure. A boy, maybe 8 years old, wearing a crude paper mask, hand drawn with crown, crooked smile, empty eye holes. He carried a pillowcase that looked completely empty. Well, hello there. Great costume. What do we say? The boy didn't speak, didn't move, just stood there, staring through those empty eye holes. We couldn't even see his real eyes in the darkness behind the mask. I dropped a handful of candy bars into his pillowcase, expecting him to say thank you and leave like every other kid. But he didn't leave. He just stood there on our porch, perfectly still. That crude mask tilted slightly, like he was studying us. Is everything okay, sweetie? Are you lost? Do you need help finding your parents? Still no response. Just that silent staring. Minutes passed. Other porch lights were turning off throughout the neighborhood, but this kid wouldn't leave. 10:30, 11 o'clock, 11:30. He stood there for an hour and a half, never moving, never speaking, never leaving our porch. By midnight, I'd had enough. This wasn't normal behavior for any child. Something was seriously wrong with the situation. I marched to the door and yanked it open. Look, kid, Halloween's over. You need to go home right now. When he still didn't respond, I reached out and ripped that stupid paper mask right off his face. Underneath the paper mask was another mask. This one looked like skin, but was wrong somehow. Too smooth, too perfect, like plastic surgery gone wrong. The boy tilted his head at an impossible angle, studying my shocked expression. Then he smiled, and the skin mask smiled with him. Before I could react, he darted past me into our house with inhuman speed. By the time I spun around, he'd vanished completely. Mark, where did he go? How did a child move that fast? We searched everywhere. Closets, under beds, behind furniture. The house wasn't that big. There was nowhere for a child to hide. Mark, do you hear that? It sounds like someone unwrapping candy upstairs. We followed the sound up our staircase. Candy wrappers were scattered on each step. The exact candy bars I'd given him. The trail led directly to our 8-year-old son Tommy's bedroom. The door was closed, but we could hear movement inside. Tommy? Honey, are you okay in there? There was someone in Tommy's bed. Covers pulled up over their head. We both sighed with relief. Our son was safe in his own room. Sweetie, why are you eating candy in bed? You know the rules about brushing teeth first. Janelle pulled back the covers. It wasn't Tommy lying there. It was the boy from our porch, still wearing that impossible skin mask. Tommy's bedroom window was wide open. Cold October air poured through. Our son's bed was warm, but Tommy was gone. We tore through the house screaming Tommy's name. Checked every room twice. The basement, the attic, and outside. Tommy, where are you? This isn't funny. When we returned to Tommy's room, the thing was sitting up in bed, perfectly still, wearing our son's Spider-Man pajamas. Slowly, it reached up and peeled off the skin mask. Underneath was Tommy's face, but the eyes were completely black, empty holes. Trick or treat, Mommy and Daddy. I'm your little boy now. We called the police, but they found nothing. No evidence of break-ins, no signs of struggle. Just an empty bedroom with an open window. They said Tommy probably ran away. Maybe fell from his window trying to sneak out. They never found his body. But I know the truth. Every Halloween since, the thing comes back. Knocks on our door wearing a different crude mask. Always at midnight. And every year, we pretend we don't hear it. Because we learned what happens when you answer the door to something that shouldn't exist. Growing up in Millbrook meant everyone knew everyone. And everyone knew the stories. Especially the story about Henderson's old pumpkin patch. Local legend said children went missing there in the 1940s. 5 kids on Halloween night vanished without a trace from that patch. The town tried to forget. Henderson's family moved away. The patch was abandoned, left to grow wild, and overgrown for decades. But in 1989, when I was 17, my friends and I thought we were too smart to believe old stories, too brave to be scared by local legends. Halloween night, my boyfriend Jake dared our group to go to the old pumpkin patch. Not just visit, stay until midnight and carve jack-o'-lanterns. We drove out there with carving tools, candles, and enough teenage attitude to ignore the way the place felt wrong from the moment we arrived. The old patch was overgrown with weeds, but pumpkins still grew wild everywhere. Perfect orange globes, sitting in the moonlight like watching eyes. See? Just an old field. Nothing scary about carving pumpkins where some kids probably just got lost 50 years ago. There were 6 of us total. Jake, me, Tommy, Sarah, Mike, and Lisa. We each picked a pumpkin and started carving faces. But as we worked, the patch seemed to get quieter. The normal night sounds, insects, distant traffic, gradually faded to nothing. Does anyone else feel like we're being watched? This place gives me the creeps. The temperature dropped suddenly. Our breath started showing in the cold air, even though it had been warm when we arrived. We finished our jack-o'-lanterns and arranged them in a circle in the center of the patch, lighting candles inside each one. There, Jake announced proudly. We did it. Midnight's still 2 hours away, and nothing happened. Local legends are just stories. That's when the first pumpkin started to bleed. Dark liquid seeped from the carved mouth, dripping onto the ground like saliva. It's just pumpkin juice, right? Maybe we carved too deep and hit some kind of, pumpkin blood vessel? But then all 6 jack-o'-lanterns started bleeding. Thick, dark liquid poured from their carved features like they were crying blood. That's when I heard it. Children's laughter. Soft giggling that seemed to come from inside the hollow gourds themselves. Did you guys hear that? It sounds like kids playing inside the pumpkins. We leaned closer to listen. The laughter was definitely coming from inside our carved jack-o'-lanterns. Like there were tiny children trapped within. Then, the laughter stopped abruptly. Complete silence for several heartbeats. We looked at each other, not sure if we should run or stay. That's when the earth beneath our feet started to shift. Soft soil was moving like something was pushing up from underneath. Small hands broke through the earth around each jack-o'-lantern. Children's hands, pale and dirt-covered, reaching up toward the candlelight. What the heck is happening? Those are hands! Actual hands coming out of the ground! Arms followed the hands, then shoulders. Children were climbing out of the earth itself, using our jack-o'-lanterns like beacons or doorways. But these weren't normal children. Their clothes were from decades past. 1940s style dresses and short pants, now rotted and stained with earth. Their faces were the worst part. Hollow eye sockets filled with dirt, mouths hanging open with soil spilling out instead of words. Run! Everyone run! Get out of here! We tried to run, but the earth itself seemed to grab at our feet. Hands shot up from the soil everywhere, clutching at our ankles. Jake fell first, pulled down into the earth that opened like quicksand. Then Tommy, then Mike. Their screams became muffled as soil filled their mouths. Somehow I broke free and I ran. I made it to the road, to our car. Drove back to town with dirt under my fingernails and terror in my heart. I told the police everything. They searched the patch the next morning, but found no evidence of my friends. No bodies, no signs of struggle. They said I'd been drinking. My friends probably drove to another party without me. No one believed the truth. But the next morning, I drove back alone to see for myself. In the bright daylight, The patch looked completely normal, except for 6 perfectly carved jack-o'-lanterns arranged in a neat line at the edge of the field. Fresh pumpkins with intricate faces. As I got closer, I realized each jack-o'-lantern had a face I recognized. Jake's cocky grin, Tommy's nervous smile, Sarah's delicate features. An old farmer appeared from nowhere and nodded toward the pumpkins. Patch needed feeding, he said simply. Every 50 years or so. He walked away before I could ask what he meant. But I understood. The children from the 1940s had finally been fed. Now they'd wait another 50 years. My friends had become the new harvest. And in 2039, when the patch gets hungry again, their faces will be calling new teenagers to come carve pumpkins in the dark. Halloween night 2017. My friends Mia, Raul, and I were into urban exploration. We spend weekends photographing abandoned buildings and forgotten places. That night, we'd heard about a boarded-up house at the end of Willow Lane. Local urban legends said it had been empty since the 1970s. Perfect Halloween location. Think of the photos we'll get in there. Authentic abandoned house atmosphere. The house looked exactly like we'd expected. Boarded windows, overgrown yard, paint peeling from neglect. Classic abandoned property. Here we go. Back door is only loosely boarded. We can get in and out without doing too much damage. We slipped inside, flashlights cutting through the darkness. The smell hit us immediately. Not decay or mold, but something like cinnamon and old candles. But this wasn't an abandoned house. The interior was decorated for Halloween. Fresh candy in bowls, lit candles on mantles, costumes hanging on hooks. This makes no sense. The outside looks abandoned, but inside it's like someone lives here. Someone who really loves Halloween. We decided to split up and explore different rooms. Each area seemed frozen in a different decade, but all decorated for Halloween. The living room felt like 1975. Orange shag carpet, wood paneling, with fresh jack-o'-lanterns and new candy. Guys, the kitchen is straight out of the 1980s, but there's fresh apple cider warming on the stove. Derek, come look at this calendar I found. It's marked October 31st, 1976 with "Do Not Leave" written across it in red ink. We gathered in the main hallway, comparing what we'd found. Every room was from a different era, but all celebrating the same Halloween. That's when the front door slammed shut behind us. The sound echoed through the house like a gunshot, final and definitive. It's locked. The door handle won't even turn. How is it locked from the inside? That's when we noticed our candy bags. The ones we brought for trick-or-treating photos. Getting heavier. Making different sounds. I opened my bag first. Instead of candy, it's filled with teeth. Human teeth of all sizes. Baby teeth, adult molars, wisdom teeth. We opened all our bags. Same thing. Hundreds of teeth. Some with bits of gum still attached. Some stained with old blood. Every window is boarded from the outside. We're completely trapped in here. The house itself began to change around us. Walls aged and shifted. The 1970s living room became 1950s. the 1960s, the 1980s. Each room was cycling through different Halloween nights, different decades, but always October 31st, always the same date. I looked into a hallway mirror and saw myself, but decades older, rotting, wearing the same clothes I had on now. In the mirror, my older self was mouthing words. You never left. You never leave. No one ever leaves. I realized what the house was. A collector. Every Halloween, it drew in new visitors and kept them, adding them to its eternal October 31st celebration. Through the walls, we could hear other voices. People who'd been trapped here from different years, all celebrating Halloween forever. A man in a 1950 suit appeared in the hallway smiling. "Welcome to the permanent party. We've been waiting for new friends." More people appeared. A woman in a 1960s dress, a child in a 1970s costume, all welcoming us to stay forever. We're going to become part of the house's collection, another set of Halloween decorations that never get put away. The house wasn't just collecting us, it was feeding on Halloween night itself, keeping October 31st alive forever by trapping people in it. Our voices joined the chorus of people who'd been celebrating Halloween for decades, trapped in an eternal party that never ends. The house went quiet and empty again, just like it had been before we arrived, waiting patiently for next Halloween, for new visitors to add to its collection. And every October 31st, we help welcome the new arrivals. Because once the house chooses you, Halloween never ends. 3 Halloween nights, 3 different horrors, 3 ways that October 31st became something more than a holiday. The masked trick-or-treater still visits houses where children live alone. The pumpkin patch still hungers every 50 years. The house on Willow Lane still collects Halloween visitors. This Halloween, when you hear that knock on your door, when you pass an abandoned pumpkin patch, when you find a house that looks too perfect for urban exploration, remember these stories, because sometimes the scariest part of Halloween isn't the costumes people wear, it's what's underneath them.